Hey everybody, happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. If you don't know me, I'm Bobby Klink. I'm the lawyer and entrepreneur behind Your Online Genius. And I wanted to pop in here today to talk about why I honestly believe that Amy Porterfield's webinar style, her way of doing webinars, is bar none the best in the industry. Now, I'm gonna check in here with my team really quick, because when I tried to do a live earlier in my group, they were not getting audio. So I want to make sure that people are able to hear me, and that you're actually going to hear what I'm saying, because it wouldn't be very good if you couldn't. But once I get confirmation that this is working, yep, so it's there, so it's working. So I want to talk about, honestly, I believe that Amy Porterfield's webinar structure, which is kind of half of what she teaches in her Digital Course Academy, is literally worth the price of admission for Digital Course Academy. If you got nothing but that, it would be worthwhile. But before I kind of talk about what it is that I love about it, I want to step back for a second, because I was thinking about this. Recently, I was in somebody else's Facebook group, and a discussion came up. I don't even remember how it came up, but a discussion came up about webinars. And someone was talking about another one of the big name entrepreneurs who has a webinar structure. I'm not going to name that person. Was talking about it, but said that basically they're similar. Amy's and this person's were similar. And I kind of came in and said, look, I kind of disagree. And I said, I disagree. And I said how I liked Amy's better. And this person responded by saying, well, yeah, I know you're an Amy fanboy. And it was almost like an insult. And at first I took it as an insult. And then I said, well, no, it's not an insult. I, in fact, do think Amy is very good at what she does. But then I thought about it again. And I was like, well, it kind of is an insult, because it implies almost that it's a knee-jerk position. And this is not a knee-jerk position. I have studied webinars from a lot of different people. I have studied a lot of the big names who you've heard of who have webinar structures. I've studied under other people. Like I was in a program about high ticket sales that had a webinar structure, and I've studied all of that stuff. And what I'll tell you is, most of the webinar structures that are out there that people are teaching are not a good fit for you, in my opinion, if you are a serve first, heart-centered entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is, most of the webinar structures that are out there are very salesy. They are very internet markety. They are attempting to employ a lot of different sales techniques, and they're doing it in a way where it's really not about serving people. Now, again, I'm going to tell you, they believe they're serving people. And yes, to some extent, if your product is good, if what you're offering is good, getting people to buy it is in fact serving them. So in that sense, yes, they are serving. But there are some problems with it. And I was using these webinar structures for a while, and they never felt right. I was always kind of, and when I made the transition to an offer and did these things, it just didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel natural. I mean, I had some success, but it didn't seem quite right. So this would have been last summer. So not the summer that just passed, but the summer before, in 2018, I was in one of Amy's groups, and I asked her about whether I should join. At the time, she had two different courses. I asked whether I should join her webinar course. The funny thing is, she told me, no, these others, you shouldn't do it. I don't think it's worth the money. I didn't listen to her. I paid her anyway, and I joined it, and I could not be happier. And so I want to talk about why it is that I believe her webinar structure is more useful and is a better fit for most entrepreneurs who follow me, at least. And these are the entrepreneurs who care about serving people, who care about, putting other people first and those kinds of things. And there's three things that I want to talk about specifically. So the first thing that is different about Amy's structure versus other people's structure is that Amy encourages you to actually give value. And I know it's crazy, but a lot of people, when you look at their webinars, other people in the internet marketing space, what they're doing, so you maybe have heard there's a structure called problem, agitate, solve. In other words, you present a problem, you agitate it to get people agitated, and then you say, here's how to solve it. But what they're doing in their webinar is basically problem and agitate. That's like what they're doing. They don't teach anything. They just make people understand you've got a problem and all these bad things could happen to you. And then the solve is only buy my product and I'll solve it for you. And so in a sense, that's kind of the traditional mechanism of a lot of different webinars. And so the point is that essentially someone who comes to those people's webinars but doesn't buy, they leave the webinar in a place where essentially they have not, all that's happened is they've been made to feel bad. They now realize they have a problem and the person has really agitated them to believe it's a real big problem, maybe. And so that's really all there is. You don't get any value out of it. Literally, I was in this one program that taught you how to do webinars. And it was all about literally, don't give value. No, don't give Band-Aids. Don't give value. Don't give them anything. And that's what they're training. A lot of people are training people to do that. Well, Amy doesn't take that approach. So Amy actually gives some value in her webinars. For example, I don't know if she'll do it in this masterclass, but in previous masterclasses, what she has done, among other things, is lay out, I think it's like the 3 slides that you have to have in your webinar. So she literally tells you, here are 3 slides that you've got to have. And again, so even if you go to her webinar, don't buy, you've at least learned here are 3 slides that you've got to include. And you're going to have the replay. And so you could actually get that stuff. And that will be hugely valuable to you, like when you're creating your own webinar, even if you don't buy. And Amy has a mantra, and I'm going to screw it up. And I tried to find it because I knew I wanted to say it. But basically, she does this thing like it's a mantra to kind of get her in the right headspace before a webinar. And I love it. And it's basically no matter whether they buy or not, they're going to leave this webinar inspired, ready to take action, and better off than when they came in. And so she, in her mind, is saying, I'm going to serve everybody, not just the people who buy. And I think that mindset is huge. If you take that mindset into webinars, you're going to be much better. So that's the first thing that I like about Amy is she basically, during the webinar part, she's actually going to teach stuff. So again, that's a good thing, I think, for a lot of people to learn, and she'll teach you how to do that. So that is a valuable piece. Now, if you want to see this in action, she's got a masterclasses coming up this week that is about her digital course academy. You can join by going to youronlinegenius.com/masterclass, and you can kind of see this in action. You can see what I'm talking about, how she does this. And so again, because that's her mantra, whether you buy or not, you're going to learn something, which that's awesome. To me, that's really good. That's the mark of a good webinar, when you can learn something even if you don't buy. So that's point number 1. Now, point number 2 is she teaches you how to transition into kind of the offer phase of your, whatever you're selling on your webinar. And this is something that is so badly needed, because the reality is most entrepreneurs, this is something we struggle with. A lot of entrepreneurs, unless you're just naturally a salesperson, you're not going to feel natural about going into the offer. And so again, I looked at my stats when I was doing it the old way, and because I was never really comfortable with the transition. And so I would see that my stats, people would drop off like right after. Right when I make the transition, a lot of people would drop off because it wasn't a natural transition. Because again, essentially people get to that point, you're like, in a traditional webinar, what's happened is you've offered no real value other than to tell them they have a problem and they need to solve it. And then you transition into selling and people are like, I'm out. I don't want to be here. Whereas Amy, because first of all, like I said in the prior one, she's already got you to the point that you are adding value in the teaching part, but then she helps you transition with a question that actually is just a natural question. It doesn't feel contrived. It doesn't feel like anything else. Some people may say it's like asking permission to make an offer, but she helps you understand how to do that and how to connect the dots. And that, I think, is hugely important. And let me contrast it again with like other people are like, the way they teach this is brutal, and it's all about like almost making people feel bad, or it's saying they have a choice. They can either just again, I could make it hyperbole, but with my legal stuff, it could have been like, you can either let your business be destroyed, or you could, and you kind of give them that choice. Amy doesn't teach you to do that. She teaches you, and she does it in a different way, which is, just fantastic, because you actually learn how to do it in a way that's natural. So that's the other thing. So on these first 2 points, you're kind of getting a theme here, that part of the problem, at least in my view, with the traditional webinar model that most people are teaching, is it's all about fear-based. It's all about basically creating, making people feel bad and making them afraid, and almost like shaming them maybe into buying. And that's not natural for people, and it's not good. And it's not going to lead to long-term success, because if the only way you get people to buy is by making them feel bad, they're not going to stick around long-term. They're not going to be people out there telling everybody about how you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, which is what we ultimately want. So that's like kind of these first 2 points of how Amy's different. But the third point is a point that I want to talk about that's really, it is a contrast in style between what I would call internet markety world and the way Amy teaches it. And this is about what's called the stack. Now, if you've been to webinars by an internet marketer, you've seen the stack. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to walk through it now so you understand what a traditional stack is. This is once you've gotten to making your offer, and you haven't yet made the offer. You haven't actually said, here you can buy and here's the price. You're walking through what they're going to get. Okay. And so the traditional stack will go something like this. And let me do it in the sense that I would have done it for my template library in the old days, in the old scene. I said, well, you get 22 legal templates. These are the legal templates that I use in my business, and they cover. And again, I would lay out kind of what they cover and say, and they're worth, and then you put a number there. And the way it's done in traditional internet marketing world is you put a very big number on that. And so I would, for example, say you get 22 legal templates, and those, if you bought them from me individually, they would cost you $15,000 if I created those for you individually. And so you put a $15,000, you're literally showing a slide that says, here are these templates, $15,000. And then you go, but you also get, and then you lay out bonus number 1. So I would say, you also get access to me in a private Facebook group where it's like having a Harvard lawyer on speed dial. And that's worth, and that's worth, and then you put a number on there. And you would do something like say, so if you just asked me one question a month at $30 an hour with my hourly rate, that's another $6,000 in value. So you had $6,000. And then you say, so the total value is $15,000 plus $6,000, so $21,000. And then you add the next bonus, and you do the same thing, stacking things up. Okay, so that's how the stack works. And the stack, the big problem I have with the stack is not in talking about the stack. My problem is in this value BS, because it's BS. The conventional wisdom that most internet marketers are teaching is that whatever the price is of your course or your product, whatever you're selling, you have to have a value of 10 times that much. Literally, so if you have $1,000 course, you have to stack value to show that you have a $10,000 worth of value. My problem with that is it's BS and it's disingenuous. And anybody with a brain can see through it, right? The only people who are sold by that thing are people who have no BS detector, right? Because again, let me talk about simple logic for you. If I have a course that is worth $10,000, I'm not going to sell it for $1,000. Because if it's worth $10,000, I can actually sell it for $10,000, right? So, and that's the problem. And so the problem is that when you do this, it sets up this, you lose credibility with people, in my view, before you've even asked that, you've even given them a chance to buy. So what you would do traditionally is you go through this whole stack, And then at the end of the stack where you've shown $10,000 of value, you say, but I'm not going to charge you $10,000. I'm not even going to charge you $5,000. Heck, most people say I should at least charge you $3,000, but I'm not going to do that either. If you buy today, it's just $997. Okay, so you do this whole thing. And again, you've probably been to those webinars. I've been to them. And every time I hear that, I'm like, why are we doing this? It's just stupid. And again, it was this thing that I thought was funny when I first got in this space, because I looked at sales pages that kind of did the stack too, like the webinar for products that were kind of like what I was doing, like a course that had legal templates and all this. And these people were saying that like 6 legal templates were worth $10,000. And I was sitting there, I was like, I don't understand. I just didn't get it. And it made no sense to me. And so I just think that honestly, if you do that, you're losing credibility from the beginning. And this is something Amy does not teach you to do the stack that way. And Amy does not teach you to do this 10x value. She teaches you a different way. She teaches you a way to like literally talk about the value, talk about, what you're doing, but value without talking about numbers. And then again, and she may have altered it since the last webinar that she did for DCA, but last time around, I think the way she did it, the only number she put out there, as I recall, at least before giving the actual price, was basically say, that she went and talked to her friends in the space and they said she could or should charge. And it was like twice what she was going to charge. And to me, that's not disingenuous because it's probably completely honest. I mean, her program, I'm sure a lot of people told her to charge that. But it's also not something that just sounds ridiculous. And you're not doing this thing where the problem with the stack is when you keep doing it over and over again, everybody can see that it is a sales technique and it's BS. And so I like the way Amy teaches you something different. And literally, I think getting rid of the stack in a lot of ways is worth its weight in gold because it's going to, help you avoid seeming like a salesy person. And I want to talk about this stack thing and the 10X concept in a slightly different way because it's very funny to me. A lot of the same internet marketers who do this, you've got to have 10X value on your webinar of what you're going to charge, are the same people who say, but you should never discount your product because if you discount your product, it makes it lose its value. In other words, they would say, never give a coupon, never do a sale, never do that. And I don't get it. If I'm going to say my thing is worth 10 times what it is, but then I'm going to give it to you at 90% off, to me, that is a bigger piece of devaluing and losing credibility than offering every once in a while doing a 10 to 15% off coupon, which I do all the time. And people love it. And I say all the time, I don't do it all the time. Like once a year, I'll offer a coupon. But it's those things just don't make sense to me. And that is kind of my third point. Sorry to have gone on a soapbox about the stack, but it is something that I'm honestly passionate about, that it drives me nuts that people do that. And it just seems, and again, maybe to newbies, it does, and by newbies, I mean, maybe people who haven't been to as many webinars as I've been to, it doesn't seem as bad. I think it does, but I was struck by it the first time I do it. But to me, it just seems nuts. And what I would say is if you're talking to people who are in the internet marketing space, they know the stack is BS, so it does no good. Now, if you're talking to people who aren't in the space and don't do webinars, I think it's going to seem like a crazy sales tactic to them. It's going to seem like an over-the-top kind of like infomercial, crazy ridiculousness type of thing. And they're not going to react well anyway. So I don't see how it is good for anything long-term. But also the problem is you're going to end up with people who get in there thinking that they're getting a $10,000 program. And then they get in there like, this isn't a $10,000 program. And then they're going to be upset. So I just don't think it ever makes sense to do it. So that's what I have to say. Those are kind of examples. But my view is like, Amy's overall structure and the way she teaches you to do webinars is fantastic because it's based on kind of really serving and in a more normal, non-salesy, non-internet marketing way of doing things. So I would encourage you, even if you're not going to join Digital Course Academy, even if you decided there's no way you want to build a digital course right now, but you might use webinars, go to her masterclass. There is a link in this post, but you can also just go to youronlinegenius.com/masterclass, because I like to say that you can learn a lot from people who are really good at their craft by just watching what they do. So again, even if you have no interest, even if you're one of my followers who's already in Digital Course Academy, I'd encourage you to go back, because I mean, you've got her trainings, but go back and watch that webinar again, because I think you'll learn so much by watching what she does, and you'll be able to see how she kind of does this, the teaching, the transition to the offer, and then an offer in a genuine way that doesn't seem internet marketing, pitchy, and just ugh. So that's what I've got for you. Again, I would encourage you to definitely go and take a look and attend Amy's masterclass, because you will be learning from, in my view, bar none, the best person at webinars on the internet. I have watched hundreds, and I've not seen anyone who does a webinar better than Amy, in my view. So I would definitely attend it, and you'll learn a lot no matter whether you buy or not. That's one of her mantras, and it really is true. So hopefully you'll join it. Head over to youronlinegenius.com/masterclass if you want to watch Amy in action. But otherwise, I look forward to chatting with you later. If you have any comments, drop them in the comments, and I'll try to respond later. Talk to you later.